These are all very, very welcome. I'm just going to wait a couple of more minutes, just to let a few more people get on. Just let me know, anyone in the chat there. Just let me know if you can hear me. Okay, make sure the mic is actually working correctly. Now, so I have everything up here, guys. I'm gonna kick off now. I presume there. I'm just saying there. You can hear me, okay? Um, And the reason I'm actually doing this, I was actually gonna do this normally as a normal video, but I just said I'd do it live, guys, just because I wanted. It's a strong enough message. I'm gonna keep it short because I'm sure you have things to be doing, so I don't want to be keeping this for hours and hours and hours. Try to keep this as brief as possible. But when God speaks, it's important for us to deliver the message as soon as possible, especially with this one specifically. I was speaking with my wife today, my mum, just specifically on this. I know I've titled this message "Something Big Is Coming." Now, as obviously most of you who've kind of been to the channel like a few times, I always kind of talk on the coming of Christ, the return of Christ. I get a huge amount of messages on this platform and other platforms, talking about, is Christ really coming soon? They've been saying this for so long, but I've come to this kind of the understanding and to the stage now that it's just too hard to deny what's going on in the world. And what I wanted to do was just to compact exactly kind of the things that are happening, but the major thing that I believe is coming, and kind of a bit of a warning for us as believers and a bit of guidance also in what we should do in these coming times. And coming times I refer to as the next while. We don't know how long we're going to be here. We don't know how long it's going to be before Christ returns. Nobody knows the day nor the hour. But one thing I am sure of and certain of is we are 100% in the season that Jesus spoke about. Now, just to get straight into this, and many will say, what are the signs? And, the simplest form of these signs we see in Matthew 24. Christ has given us all the different types of things that will kind of precede his return. Yes, we at the moment we're seeing an increase in earthquakes. They're happening everywhere and they're happening with more intensity. We're seeing a rise in floods and all types of things when it comes to flooding and all types of issues there around Europe, in the States. We've even broken some records in Europe in terms of flooding in certain areas. Things are picking up at an extreme rate. Also, we've seen fires even in this year, 2021 alone. We have seen some extreme fires that we've never actually seen before. We're seeing these. Some people will call these natural disasters. This is what they say. They'll call it all types of things, but they're happening too much in terms of in intensity and in frequency, and we're seeing these things happening closer together. It's like a day doesn't go by to when we see a huge natural, or what they call a natural disasters. But in the back of my mind as a believer, I'm knowing in my heart that something is drawing near, that we're coming close to what I would call a crescendo. And it's at the precipice of these things that we see particular change. But as as we go in further and I tell people about these signs, they'll say, well, we've been saying Jesus has been kind of returning for thousands of years, and you look at World War One and World War Two. The difference between now and say 70 or 80 years ago when we were in the World War, say World War Two, is that there was no Israel in place. Israel was a huge, significant prophecy, and that's why kind of with boldness and with confidence I can truly say that I believe we are that generation. We've seen Israel in 1948 come to the forefront. A nation was born in a day, and from there I believe the time clock has started. So when anybody asks me that kind of says that to me or tells me that question, they've been saying it for so long, that's fine. We expected Christ to come at any time, but I believe since 1948 that we were specifically that generation. And what makes it even more so is that we were also told, as we start to see the signs happening and we expect the return of Christ, not all believers are looking at that in terms of expecting Christ to return, which is for me it's strange, because the return of Christ is a huge portion of the New Testament, but something that Peter tells us in 2 Peter 3, 3 to 4. A lot of you probably know this scripture talking about scoffers will come in the last days. They will come scoffing, following their own sinful desires. They will say, "Where's the promise of his coming? For ever since the fathers have fallen asleep, all things are continued as they were from the beginning of creation." When you look at the context of that story, they were talking about the fathers, which would have been at the start, even in around Moses' time. So it was going way, way back, and we can do the same today, but we're getting believers, because this is going to be pointing at believers, because the world is not going to be expecting Christ to come back. It's other, what we would class as other believers, who will scoff him off and say, "For so long we've been saying that Christ is coming. Where is he? We've been saying it for so long." But they continue in their own sinful desires. So this was a big key factor to let me know that we're truly in that time period. And that's kind of what would show us the signs of Christ's return. Now, when we bring this back to what's going on in the world, we see over the last couple of years, guys, and I'm restricted to what I can say, so much deception has gone on over the last, we'll say, 18 months, 2 years. Something that was a little bit more difficult for me to chew was to see the faith of so many believers had dwindled away, that they would trust the word of the world rather than the word of God. And these are deceptions that are big, but really what kind of pushed the agenda and what got me to focus in on is that we have to understand and know, and I'll do a different study on this. As you can see the whiteboard behind me, I'm going to do a different study on this. The whole basis of what's going on in the world at the moment is based on a group of people who actually run the physical world at the moment. Satan's minions who are in control, and they have an agenda. They have a plan. They will use everything at their disposal to get this plan to fruition. Most of us have heard this whole thing of the one world order or religion, all of these things, or the elites are in control. When we see the pyramid of with the Eye of Lucifer on top and Freemasonry, all of this ties in to exactly the plan that they want to do. And here's some of the things that they will definitely do in the natural, and we've seen it happening today. When you look into Agenda 2030 and all of these other things, Klaus Schwab and a few other things that they have there, which you can find a huge amount of information on. One of the main things that they're going for, and we're seeing it happen today, a food shortage is going to hit. Now, does that mean there's absolutely no food? No. But if they can control the amount, and if they can do it that way, because if you control the food, you control the people. It's always been that way, and most of us have seen, you've probably seen it yourself, the containers, the amount of containers that are sitting out in the ocean because they cannot be processed. From what I've researched, there's things going on in China at the moment, and they've had a couple of outages, so they can't process electronically what's on the containers for the containers to be shipped in. That's from what I've seen. I still think it's strange that they've docked all of that. Now, not all of the places are not going to have any food, but a huge chunk of them. And what will happen is one news report can spark panic buying, which means everything goes within a couple of days, and then people are left without food and chaos ensues. We're seeing it over here in the UK. They're short of like 100,000 drivers, so things can't be delivered. These are all man-created kind of issues that can be resolved, but they don't want to actually do it. From what I see, they just leave it and go on to the next. Nothing here to see, folks. Nothing here to see. This is the kind of innuendo that they use. Something I really truly believe, and I have to word this correctly, is obviously we see all the weather patterns. They have other words that they use for it to say what it is. As a believer, we know that all these things are meant to happen as the return of Christ gets closer, but they call it, that climate change, I think is the word that they use now. It's all to do with that. But when you look and trace exactly why they call it this and what it is that they want to do, you start to understand it slightly different. And I believe because of that, things are going to actually escalate even more. We're going to see more tsunamis, and I've felt that for a long time. One big one is going to come that will make kind of things speed up and bring things into effect in terms of that agenda, or the green agenda is a word that I would phrase or coin a little bit better. We're going to see it happening. It can be La Palma, which is the volcano that's going on in Canaries. Absolutely possible that it could be that. You know, something else that they love and they've loved since the beginning is war, violence. And you know, we see it all over the planet at the moment. And we're seeing kind of the rise in tensions with China, Taiwan. Tensions are beginning to mount and mount and mount and mount. And what will happen is, if something was to trigger there, you will see the likes of the US and other allies would have to intervene. And it's getting more and more intense in terms of what's happening over there. I believe next year you're going to see something kind of within the Arab nations. Something's going to spark there. I just feel it on the tip of my tongue that something is going to actually give way there. But it's a managed agenda. War, like when we look at all the things that have happened, all the wars that have happened lately, even the last while, there's generally a key behind it, and it's money. Money is power for these guys. So the more they have, the more power they have. But it's not only money that they look for. Something that I've just said there, finance will be one of the big power plays, and we're seeing a shift in the financial wave. Everything's going to move from what we call a digitalized or a normal analog currency or cash currency within the banks to a digital frequency. It's getting more and more like that. Even personally for myself, I don't generally use cash. I'm so used to using a card, but it's going to tie in to the final play. Most of us have probably spoken on the whole concept of the mark of the beast and what it's going to do, and buying and selling, which I'm not going to get into today. But all of the things that we see happening today is to build up to that period of time. Remember, folks, Satan knows that his time is short. He knows it. He does actually know. So what he will use is every tool at his disposal to try to destroy everything that God is, which means the people that God has created. If he can pull them away from God fully, that's what he's looking to do. So he'll use every deception at hand. And all of those in terms of the food and the green agenda and the war and rumours of wars and the financial kind of institutes, that's all part of the kind of the one world plan to implement one world dominance. And interwoven with that, you'll have religious kind of institutions that will kind of fabricate it as well and tie in, which will explode. And this will be this is kind of like the fundamentals of what we believe to be end times. Now, to get straight into it, in terms of really, I felt such an urgency for a while. You know, guys, nobody is perfect. I have my good days and my bad days and my ups and my downs. You know, sometimes I doubt certain things, and then sometimes I get a surge of faith within me on certain things as well. None of us have this fully or completely when it comes to prophecy, but sometimes the silent voice that we hear inside when God is speaking, it's very hard to quieten that at times. And you know, I was praying about all of these things. I was actually thinking some of these things today, and you know, I said to my wife in the car, I've been feeling it for a while, but I feel inside me like God is storing me to say that something big is coming like never before. Yes, we have all of the things that I've just talked about there. Things that can be explained by man in terms of we can see it and we can contemplate it and we know, and obviously the world will say all of these things are natural and they'll come up with some sort of, you know, scientific reasons why these things happen. But there's something is coming, and I believe this is for 2022. I really truly do. Something is coming that was thought to be impossible, which will be used as a major deception that man cannot explain. And it was kind of whispered to me like that. This will be bigger than the current situation, which I'm sure you're well aware of what's going on in the whole world at the moment. It's going to be bigger than that. And he said, get your house in order. And this was kind of how I heard him, that it would be bigger than what's going on, and that me personally speaking need to get my house in order, and believers who are listening and who are hearing my voice need to get your house in order. What that actually means, hold on a sec, guys. What was it? Right, guys, hold on, I'll switch. Now, I was told my camera, technology. Now, where are we? Sorry about that, guys. Now, just make sure it's all working. Can you all see me properly now? Am I normal or am I still upside down? Perfect. Right. Perfect. Technology with me does not work. I have some new bits that I need to actually get. I'm sure you got a gist of what I was saying. It was more important for you to hear me than actually see me. I'm not the best looking, so it was better for you to hear me than see me. But yeah, as I was saying, something big is coming that has never happened before. Not only that, but man won't be able to explain it, but it will be used as a deception. I've never in my life, in all the things I've studied and seen and things happen, I've never seen a deception like I've seen in the last 2 years. This has literally brought division like never before, like anything. And in Ireland, we've had some serious things change here, and some serious things that were voted in that brought some division, but nothing like this. This one is going to trump the lot of them. This will be used as a major deception to bring in the beast system, and because of this deception, people will be drawn to and worship the coming beast. And I felt this so strongly in my spirit. At times, I actually felt slightly anxious, not for me, but just to think what could be bigger than what's actually happening at the moment. I've never seen anything like this, and at times it seems like it's getting better. They're giving us small bits of freedoms at times, etc., 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 and then it's kind of getting pulled back. But what's coming is going to be bigger than what's been here before. And we know Christ spoke that a time is coming like never before, worse than ever, than anything that happened beforehand, and worse than anything that's ever going to happen. Now, when I spoke in terms of what's actually coming, and what I felt God was speaking to me about, um, you know, Paul tells us that our battle is not against flesh and blood. And sometimes I can get fleshy, I can get angry at what I see in terms of what's going on at the moment. I get angry at my government, and I do joke at times at my mom saying I want to protest and violently protest, which is the part inside me, and always have to remember that we are not part of this world, that the things that are happening are meant to happen and they're going to happen, that we don't fight against flesh and blood, but powers and principalities, rulers and darkness in this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places, which was something that God kind of highlighted to me, was that this thing that's coming will come from a high place, but will manifest itself. And it was in that kind of the visualization I got. Something is going to come that we can't understand or fathom, that's going to physically come from the high places, but manifest itself physically. And we see in Luke 21, one of my favorite scriptures on kind of end times, on kind of the things that are about to happen. And it gives a great description of the feeling that will be going around at that time. And it says in Luke 21 that there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and in the earth dismay among the nations, bewildered by the roaring of the sea and the surging of the waves. Men will faint from fear and anxiety over what's coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Now, I did a video on this a while back on a breakdown of these type of scriptures, which I'll probably repost or redo and repost again. But this is probably a great kind of descriptive scripture of what it's going to be like when this, what I believe, this big thing that's coming will happen. People won't be able to perceive or understand what they're seeing, but yet they will worship it. You know, I've always tried to understand why in that time, in that tribulation period, when the beast is here, will people worship him? There will be loyalty even to death to them. Scary, but a mind and kind of a mind opener and an eye opener to the things that are happening. And you know, if we finish on this, we need to be prepared the way Joseph was in the time of feast or plenty, which I believe a lot of us are. Yes, some of us can fall on hard times, financially speaking, etc., etc., etc. But if you can, do try to get the bits in, because we just don't know what they have planned, what could actually happen. But I felt, you know, as I kind of dwelled on this, is that we do need to be prepared. Have the little bit extra if you have it there to get in. The most important thing as a believer is to be ready spiritually and physically ready, because it can tire us out going through something like that. You know, it's a short one. I wanted to keep it short and brief and kind of to the point. Um, you know, it's really important for us guys to understand prophecy is in part. We don't know it all. We do not know it all. But God does reveal things to us before He even does things. He'll reveal it to us. He really, truly does. I said, wrap it up on that, guys. Be ready, be prepared. We're living in exciting times. If anyone tells you it's not exciting to talk about the return of Christ or the expectancy of the return of Christ, they've lost their mind. It's the most exciting thing that we have. Scripture is full of passages on the returning of Christ. I'll leave that with you there, guys. I know it's short and brief and to the point. Be blessed. I probably do something similar again because I know this was upside down. I'm going to kind of try to squeeze it all in. Read the chat. There. I see it there. You know what I'll do? I know I actually promised as well, guys, on the post. What I'll do is I'll give a couple of minutes there. If you have any questions you want answered, I'll throw them out there. And I'll try my best to answer as best as possible. Yeah, no, that's something I was looking to get, was someone that could actually look after that. It's hard enough to do that. I can see Ash Jason to heart. I can see our question there. Landon, I see it there. Praying for you, your family. If need be, I know if you want to send an email, Landon, with a proper email, you can find it in the description. I'm not sure if it's on this video or on one of the videos. You'll see my email. Drop me a private email there, and more than happy to talk to you. Yeah, well, guys, this is a question that many people will ask. You know, about the things that's going on in the world at the moment. How will I say this? Mark of the Beast. Is probably the easiest form. And you know, Aaron from God a Minute, which a lot of you have probably watched already, does a very good video on it. You know, where we ask the question, "Is it?" And he has to circle where it says, "I don't know." It's kind of where I lie. I don't know, but I treat it like it is. You know, that's kind of how I would feel on the whole situation. Even aside from the biblical side in terms of the mark, what's going on with in terms of the government trying to force me to do something, me as a typical Irish man have that kind of rebellion in me to say no. You know, I don't want them forcing me to do anything that I don't want to do. But yeah, I would treat it as if it is, but I'm unsure if it is. And I've done videos on this, guys. I've done reasons to why I believe that it may not be, because certain things need to be in play. But the more I see things happening and progressing around the world with this whole situation, it's very hard to get past the possibilities. And when we see Australia and all these other places, it's a hard thing to get past. We need to kind of pray for wisdom with everything that's going on at the moment, to be kind of aware, to be ready, and to be ready to make the hard and difficult choices. We really, really do. But I would not, I know there's a lot of kind of back and forth between people. Yes, it is, and yeah, maybe it's not. Or rather than kind of going at each other and fighting on the topic itself, let iron sharpen iron. Rather than kind of throwing out insults because one may slightly be different in terms of their opinion on what it is, talk to each other properly and talk it over. Rather, we have enough enemies out there, guys. We don't need to be enemies with each other. Yeah, Benito, I'd say that as well. That's something I've studied on Genesis 6, the whole manipulation of your genetic code. I'm actually in the process of doing that. That's going to take me a while to do. I'm probably going to do it animated, so I just have to wait. But that's something that I've always looked at as Genesis 6, and I believe that's going to be tied in with kind of the beast system at the end, because nothing is new under the sun. What Satan did at the start, he will probably do at the end. He promised Eve and Adam many things in terms of knowledge and you live. He's going to do it at the end also. So we really have to be aware that the enemy is decisive in terms of he wants to destroy as much as possible. And he'll use every means and every tool at his disposal to do it. Now, anyone else? Guys, it's good to have you all here, by the way. I have a few things coming up, just so you know. I've kind of been I've been fighting a lot with YouTube, etc., because of certain things going on. And they gave me a strike last week, and they took it back down because they said they realised they make a mistake after I had fought with them. As you know, restriction on what we can say is quite big, so it's all coded words, which can be hard at times. But we'll still preach and preach and preach and get the word out. And what I'll try to do, because TikTok you can actually do a little bit more. I created an account there a couple of weeks ago. I'll drop that in the description on this one after I've done this, or on another video, if you want to see some of that type of stuff, the whole thing that's going on at the moment, and just some of the stuff I would believe when it comes to that. I can't really post it on YouTube. Guys, it seems to be kind of all the questions you want to ask. What I'll ask you to do, and I always ask, if you could pray for me as well also, just as I would pray for you. Just for, yourself, when you're doing these things, preparation, time, we want to make sure these things are effective. I have a few plans and ideas, some good stuff in the pipeline, technology. I'm waiting on the proper technology to come. I'm praying, obviously laptops, etc., and a few other things. We have the whiteboard behind us, which is great. To do kind of more deep studies, which I'll have one for you probably next week. What I'll try to do is maybe on the Sundays, I'll do the live feed every Sundays, and then I'll do all the small videos and normal videos during the week. And we've created a good community here, guys. Yes, we have disagreements with each other, difference of opinions on certain topics of eschatology and end times. The most important thing is to come together as believers and unite that Christ is actually coming back soon. I'll finish on this. Regardless of what goes on in the world, guys, God is always in control, and keep the faith.